What is up, YouTube? Lightsaber Samurai here. I'm back again with another video. And first of all, this backlog February thing that I've been doing way harder. Than it's starting to get a little tough, man. Okay, so yesterday I'm on my way home from work and I'm just driving and I passed by CD Trade Post. I'm like, oh man, let me see what they got up in there. Let me see. And so I'm in there just shopping for games, and luckily one of the people that work there is actually a subscriber of the channel, and they were like, hey, like, aren't you not supposed to be buying games this month? And I was like, oh crap, like, I'm not supposed to be buying games this month. It was just instinctive to pass by the game store and just go in there. And that is precisely why I'm doing this challenge for a month, because I think it's starting to become like an addiction to me, like just rote response. Like I see a video game store, like, oh, might as well go in there and maybe buy some games. So then I felt bad that I walked into their shop, so I just bought like some anime instead, a couple of movies. So there's that. But anyway, we are continuing on with Backlog February. The next game we have on our list is a fighting game by Sega, in fact, and it's kind of one of the 3D fighters that get overlooked, you know, in a world dominated by Tekken and Soul Calibur. So today we are looking at Virtua Fighter 5 on the PS3. Is it any good? Let's talk about it. Okay, so the plot of this game I'm not really going to get into. It's just like all of the other 3D fighting games of its type. It's probably some tournament that's being put on, the latest in a series of tournaments that happen every year, every few years, and fighters from around the world are competing. The tournament itself is probably being sponsored by some shadowy organization that's secretly gathering all the fighters' DNA to combine into the perfect fighter whom you'll have to fight at the end of the game. It's something like that, right? But the storyline isn't really why I play the Virtua Fighter series. Compared to some of its peers, I've always heard people, proponents of Virtua Fighter, say that it's kind of like the adults fighting game, and you know, Tekken or Dead or Alive is kind of just like, you know, like rank amateurs when it comes to like the big boys 3D fighter, which is Virtua Fighter. And I can see where they get a lot of that. The combat in this, the fighting definitely feels slightly slower, and the hits feel a little more heavy. So you can feel the weight behind the punches and kicks by a lot of the fighters in this game, more so than I can in Tekken. Actually, Tekken kind of seems faster and smoother, but this one is just kind of heavier and dare I say more realistic. The roster is pretty much the same as you find in previous game. They got a few added characters for a total of like 18, which is kind of one of the cons I've always had with the Virtua Fighter series. I always felt like the roster just was never big enough. They seem slow to add new characters to the series as the series goes on. Compare that to like even Dead or Alive is kind of shallow to me. Usually I think the newest one has like 25 or closer to 30, so it's doing better than Virtua Fighter. But you know, Tekken will shove like 40 characters in your face, 40 plus, and then a bunch of unlockable characters as you go on, and it's like they can't even fit all the fighters into one game. And I like that. I like that. It's more like a Street Fighter in that way. But anyway, so you got 18 fighters. The fighters are varied, and most of their fighting styles are based on real world martial arts, like Drunken Kung Fu and Shaolin Kung Fu and karate and Aikido and Vale Tudo, things like that, wrestling, of course. So there's a lot of variety to be had. You're definitely going to find somebody that you like. Graphic wise, the graphics in this are simply fantastic. One thing to note about this game real quick is the PlayStation 3 version. The Virtua Fighter 5 is based on the arcade version that came out a couple of years before the console. Now, when the arcade version came out, there were a couple of versions of it. They had version A, B, and C. Virtua Fighter 5 on the PlayStation 3 is based on version B of the arcade game, whereas Virtua Fighter 5 on the Xbox 360 is based on version C of the game, and because of that, the Xbox 360 version is actually the definitive version. So be on the lookout for that. It has a couple of extra characters not found in the PlayStation 3 version, as well as adding online play, which is something the PlayStation 3 version didn't have. Again, being that it's 2021, that's probably not something you really have to worry about much anymore, but just something to note. Again, I went ahead and picked up the PlayStation 3 version simply because I like the DualShock 3 controller better when it comes to fighting games, as opposed to that webbed D-pad that's on the 360 controller. So that's just something to note. You are missing a few features on the PlayStation 3 version. That being said, I didn't notice anything as far as slowdown or long load times, or even much screen tearing, things like that. So I think, that being said, I think both games run fine as far as limitations like that. One thing that I will mention as far as the graphics, in particular, for the most part, I like the new character models for most of the characters, with the exception of Vanessa. And it's really weird looking back at Virtua Fighter 4. She's noticeably lighter in this game than she is in Virtua Fighter 4, so I don't understand that. She was, you know, a dark-skinned African-American woman. They kind of made her super light. It looks like she's suffering from vitiligo or something in Virtua Fighter 5. I don't know what that's about. Overall, this is a fantastic fighting game, whichever system you play it on, whichever version you have. Yeah, compared to Tekken and Dead or Alive, this stands right up there, and it kind of has its own style and flavor. If you see this game, this is going for about the $10 mark, and so if you see it, definitely pick it up. Again, it doesn't really matter which version you get at this point, in my opinion. Again, the Xbox 360 version has an extra 2 or 3 characters, but I mean, I don't think it's really that big a deal. Okay guys, I do believe that's all I got for you, but let's talk about it in the comment section below. Questions, comments, concerns, threats. Have you guys played Virtua Fighter? Where do you rank Virtua Fighter when it comes to the 3D fighting games, compared with series like Dead or Alive, like I mentioned, Tekken, Soul Calibur, things like that? Where do you think it sits? If you like this content, go ahead, hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already. You'll be glad you did. I do believe that's all I got for you. Lightsaber Samurai out, and peace.